Good afternoon, everyone, to Spotlight Tuesdays with Coach BJ. Come on in to this live talk this afternoon. If you're taking your lunch break, go ahead and grab your food and come and listen to what our guests have to say today. I'm so excited to do this interview today with our lovely guests who I will introduce shortly. Come on in and let us know that you are here and watching. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I am so excited about this talk today to share. This is everything about the youth today. So we're normally talking about adult stuff. So today we have our special guest in this wonderful nonprofit organization that we're going to be talking about as it relates to the youth. So I'm so excited to share today this information. So welcome everyone, and I'll let you guys come on in and let us know when you get in. So for those who are new to Spotlight Tuesdays, just to let you know that we are here every first and third Tuesdays of the month at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And we stream live on Facebook and YouTube. And the purpose of Spotlight Tuesdays with Coach BJ is to hear inspiring stories from both men and women who have stepped out and started their business or their nonprofit organization. And my hope for the viewers is that they will be able to connect and tap into their own gift and their own passion and purpose and make their dreams come true. So I typically start off interviewing the guests so you can understand what it really takes to be in a small business or a nonprofit organization. And again, it's an opportunity for you to sow a seed in their business with their products and services, or if they're a nonprofit organization, you can look at volunteering or filling some of the open, maybe nonprofit organization board positions that they may have available. So there are so many opportunities for you to grow and gain experience in a field that you are most connected to. So I just wanted to open up first and let you know what Spotlight Tuesdays is all about for those of you who are new and joining. So before we get started, I want you guys, and we'll encourage you to go ahead and put your questions in the chat so we can, and our guests can address any comments or questions you may have around the topics that we will discuss, or even to learn more about the organization or about the guests themselves. So we want you to be able to put those comments in the chat and let us know that you are here. Deborah, thank you for watching. Welcome today to Spotlight Tuesdays. And our special guest today is co-founder Marlene Maina with JosiahKids. And Marlene and I, we actually met through our mutual friend, our beautiful friend Jessica, who saw the synergy between a youth coaching program that I'm actually currently developing and JosiahKids, and thought we should meet. And from the time that Marlene and we did the Zoom meeting, we ended up connecting both on a personal level, a spiritual level. It was just a wonderful connection. A lot of times you think that you are connecting with someone, on one thing, but then, God ends up bringing you together for a totally different reason. And so since staying connected with Marlene and I, I was so intrigued with her program, JosiahKids, that I actually requested a sit-in for my oldest daughter, Essence, to sit in on one of the sessions because of the wonderful work that her program does. And I was able to assist also with the live event that was done as well. So it's just been a great opportunity to work alongside with her and actually just witness the wonderful work that she's doing with our youth ages 7 through 17. And so after that, I already shared with her that I would be enrolling both of my daughters when they turn 7 into the JosiahKids program in order for them to further develop, their skills, their talents, their spiritual growth, everything beyond what we teach at home, and even, beyond what they learn at school. And that's what this program is all about. So before we get into the interview with Marlene, I would love to play just a quick video about JosiahKids and what they do and offer, so you can be able to see what the program is all about before we get into the founder and talking a little bit more about the organization. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play that right now for you. Hold on.
It started as a simple thought to teach their 2 young daughters the Word of God and all the practical things that would help with their personal growth and development. A year later, however, Newton and Marlene Maina would find themselves converting their dining room into a small neighborhood discipleship classroom. Within the first year of the grand opening, Josiah Kids had maxed out their space and gradually transformed into what has become a non-traditional school of young leaders. There were three main questions on Newton and Marlene's minds at the start of Josiah Kids. What critical convictions, values, skills, and virtues should a child be getting in their formative years? How could they help families like their own invest those critical values without the burden of exuberant costs or the strain for bandwidth that have left families overextended, running from one activity to the next across town? 3. How could they leverage their network of friends and leaders to successfully build a central place where a community of young students could grow in wisdom, elevate creativity, discover the value of expression, and be fully equipped for the type of world they would soon be walking into? The answer to these questions would become the framework around which they would build Josiah Kids. So, who is Josiah Kids? Josiah Kids is a faith-based 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to educate, empower, and equip young students and teens in the local community in the areas of faith, leadership, community service, and the arts.
We're here, Josiah Kids, to make sure that we help you guys to awaken the spirit of leadership within you, so that when you leave this place, you're going out with a different mindset. You're thinking differently.
Our website, www.josiahkids.com, houses all valuable information about us. Here, you will learn more about the classes we offer, be able to apply for enrollment online, meet the team, meet our board of directors, learn how you can volunteer or invest, and even check out our blog and gallery of pictures. Our program is for young students ages 7 through 12 and teens ages 13 to 19, and we are in session twice every month from September through May. While students are with us, they are learning the Bible, hearing from quality guest speakers such as athletes, artists, attorneys, authors, doctors, and songwriters. While with us, students are also elevating creativity in music and dance, learning how to set goals, building lasting friendships, and learning how to grow into the type of servant leaders our world is so desperately in need of. This school year, we were excited to add recreational skills and drills in basketball for families of students who want to keep fit while building healthy relationships. Our young people are fighting a real war against hopelessness, violence, and heartbreaking despair. The CDC reports, for example, that suicide has remained the second leading cause of death for our young people ages 10 through 34. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime also reports that North America continues to experience the highest drug-related mortality rate in the world. This does not have to be the future our young people walk into. If it is true, and it is, that substance abuse costs our nation over $600 billion annually, then Josiah Kids is a mission worth duplicating in every city, because we truly believe, as Frederick Douglass put it, that it is much easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
So I hope that that short video really helped people to understand a little bit more about Josiah Kids. And Marlene later is going to kind of also discuss some of the new programs that they have available in addition to everything that you just heard. So again, it's a wonderful program that they're doing great work on. So first, I wanted to get into the interview with Marlene and ask her a couple of questions. So Marlene, tell us a little bit about your background and what you would like us to know about you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Coach BJ, for having me on your show today.
Okay.
I am truly honored, and I'm grateful that Jessica connected us. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and your family, and I'm really proud of the work you are doing. So thank you so much for having me here. It is an honor. And for everyone who's watching and listening, I am very glad that you're here today. Thank you for taking the time to hear more about my journey and to hear more about the work we're doing at Josiah Kids. So basically, if I could just give you a very brief picture of my journey and my background, I was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya, and I moved to the United States when I was 19 years old. I'd like to say that I had like one of those perfect childhoods. Like my family was just, you couldn't ask for a better family. My dad had beat some amazing odds. He's that kid who lost his mother when he was only 3 years old and walked to school barefoot for miles and miles. But he managed to, with the support of his dad, who truly believed in education, send him out of the country. He studied abroad. He did really well, earned a PhD, came back to Kenya as a professor, was recognized for his work all over the world. And he was thriving career wise. So we had a beautiful home. They married. They started an amazing family. So I was born into that family where, my dad and my older sisters frequented the White House, if you will. There they are with the president taking pictures and doing really well. So we had what we needed. We had drivers, we had multiple cars, we had it all. But we lost it all too, unfortunately. So I like to say that anything can destabilize the life of a child, of a happy child. Sometimes it's abrupt, could be a car accident. Sometimes it's a slow fade. For me, it was a slow fade. My family, unfortunately, just fell apart. And we were shipped off to boarding school where we were forgotten many times. School closed, we weren't picked up. Um, and when it looked like things were going to get better, my dad actually lost everything. He lost everything. Everything he had worked so hard for, he lost it. And so he was an educator. And in many ways, I like to say that he was my number one teacher. He taught me a lot of what works and what doesn't work. And so I came to understand through his life that education and wisdom were two different things. And just because you're educated doesn't mean that you are able to sustain success, or rather, the way the world defines success and the way the Bible defines success, two different. Yes. So it made me pursue success in a very different way. The lowest point for me was when my mother died abruptly when I had just turned 19. She was only 47. So it was a very painful place. And at her gravesite, I think, to me personally, that was the lowest of the low. We had gone through a lot of challenges prior to that. And she had moved out of the country. She had lived in Germany, and then she came back. And when she came back, she's ready to get, her girls together. 7 girls they had back to back. And then she passes away. It was, heart-wrenching. But at her gravesite, as her casket's being lowered, I just happened to look up and I saw my dad in slow motion, just walking away, frustration, threw his hands up, and he left for good. And my eyes just stayed on my younger sisters, who were only 11, 12, and 15 at the time. And I was devastated. It just felt like we were walking into a black hole of a future. And so from that point on, bouncing around from one home to another, not really having a stable environment, there was something I was longing for. There was something I was looking for, a community of people, someone to invest in me and my sisters, and to build a wall for us to say, hey, I got you. But I never found that. So that was really the story. That is the inspiration behind this, because I wanted to become for a child what I always hoped to find, but never could. That's the brief version of my journey.
Okay. Yeah. And so that, really was just kind of my thoughts about even, and you just answered my next question, because, I always like to know, like, what inspired you for this mission. Because a lot of times I don't think people really understand and realize that, a lot of times your purpose or your mission that you're supposed to walk into sometimes comes from pain, right? And so, and I'm sure the pain, as you so vividly described to us, the vision of your father walking away, throwing his hands up as if like, I'm done, and you're looking like, but it's still me and, 3 other kids you have right here, like, wait a minute, and so the desire and longing for that stability is what gave you the desire to also, give back to those kids that you now serve. the same, that may go through the same feelings that you experience. So that's really amazing with that. So why the name Josiah?
Okay, so the name Josiah, that's a good question. We get that a lot. He is one of my most favorite biblical characters, and the reason why is because Josiah was only 8 years old when he became king in Israel. And most people don't know this, but he was the grandson of King David. So the great King David had a grandson whose name was Josiah. And Josiah became king at 8 because his dad was assassinated when he was only 2 years old. And he had been reigning in Israel for about 16 years before he even learned that there was such a thing as a book called the Bible. So, he hires these people to go clean up the temple and says, hey, we need to make some repairs in the temple and build this house of God and restore stuff in there. Now, unfortunately, Manasseh, who was his grandfather, had been one of the worst kings that Israel had ever known. He had strayed from the things of God. He had promoted a lot of idolatry. I mean, just blatantly having a lot of idols inside the house of God. Like, he had just male prostitutes. He was, anyone could be the priest.
Right.
Anyway, Josiah says, let's repair the temple. And there, one of the priests finds the book, the little book, and he brings it back to him. And he says, hey, guess what? I just found this book in the temple. And they read it to him. And he can't believe it. He's like, are you kidding me? So he rips his clothes and he's like appalled that he's been leading a nation for over 16 years, not realizing how far they have strayed from the ways of God.
Right.
And his response is to send someone. Is there anyone in the land who hears from God? And they go find a prophetess. Her name is Huldah, and she sends a message back straight from God for him. And basically, the Lord says, because of how you responded when you heard my word, I'm going to pass over you. I'm going to allow this destruction that I had scheduled for this nation. I'm going to let it pass over. And so what I have in my heart for this generation is that they will be the Josiahs of our time, because Josiah literally went around the land and he took down, tore down, burnt, destroyed anything that was a desecration and anything that was an abomination before God. And he returned the nation back to the heart of God. So I love that for our young kids, and I want them to know him well. I want them to fight for what is good, to fight for what is right. And if you look at our logo, you'll see there's a red seal that actually has the Passover on it. I will pass over you. In essence, I'm trying to raise a generation of kids who will cause the heart of God to relent on the destruction because of the ways we've strayed, but also a generation that will return. You look at our world today, Coach BJ, you know we need help. We need help. So we need a generation that's able to, with courage, stand up and say, hey, this is what's good. This is what's right. That's why we chose the name Josiah.
Awesome. And I see Cindy, she made a comment and said she loved the why behind the mission. And so do I, because I'm telling you, I mean, that is just a beautiful story. And it's also a lesson for people that are watching and are looking for the mission, because I think a lot of people, they want to get in stuff or start a business or organization, but you have to know your why.
Yes.
Because your why is what's going to sustain you throughout all the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the and the ugly, right? It's your mission that's going to bring you back to the foundation of what you are, supposed to be focused on when there are times that it gets rough and, and everything. And Marlene is going to take us through some things about that as well. But
yes,
it's just a way to sustain you. So beautiful, beautiful why. And so I want to, and it's so interesting because, as you know, and as I stated earlier, we met through our mutual friend, Jessica, not knowing that we both Marlene and I worked at CocaCola. I think for you, how long was it for you, Marlene?
16 years. I thought it was 16, yeah.
16 years. And so for me, it was 19 and a half years before, walking away. So my next question to you is, again, much like me, who walked away from a long corporate career, to start your organization and for me to, to really bring my business full time. I always like viewers to know, what were the signs for you that it was time to leave, and that you were ready to start Josiah's Kids, versus just maybe just doing it the part-time for a long time, or what was that? Or again, did you establish it part-time prior to leaving Coke? Or did you just kind of start from scratch and say, you know what, hey, I'm walking away and I'm gonna start this full-time? I like people to know that, because as people are making decisions about their passion and their purpose, I really like for them to gain a better understanding of, the decisions that you can make, and what may work for some people may not work for you, or what could work for you. I like for them to know, kind of have a smorgasbord, if you will, of, ideas of what they can do when they're thinking about their own gifts and their passion. So what was that for you, Marlene?
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question, Barnita, because to be very honest, if I have to be transparent, I'll say, yes, I was at Coke for the last, for 16 years and 4 months, right? But many, many times I was very restless and ready to leave. I was ready to go at year 5, year 10, year 12, and I got really serious about leaving. And of course, I was praying for guidance and I was asking God for wisdom. But I thought it was time for me to go, but it turned out it wasn't. Now, the one helpful thing is this. I knew from the time I was a teenager in high school that I was carrying a purpose inside of me. I knew that. But with that purpose, you have the preparation, right? So I'd gone to school and I graduated from, one school in New Jersey, then I moved to Oklahoma. I graduated from another 2-year Bible school there. Then I came to Atlanta. I went to, finish my 4-year degree here. Then I went in for my master's in divinity and a master's in leadership. So with that schooling, I knew that this was the complement and where I was going, my mission. It was going to complement my mission. So when I came to Coca-Cola, to be very truthful, I thought I was just coming there for a job to help carry me and just kind of take care of those expenses and the bills. While I work on my real purpose, right?
Right.
And I know F.B. Meyer says this in a lot of his books. He says, you never really know what God is educating you for. And none of those years are wasted. Every time God gives you a promise, you're carrying a purpose, there's going to be a process. And it's usually not just a short time, quick thing. It's always he's very detailed in how he's preparing you and how he's processing you. So for me, the first time I got very serious about leaving Coke, I found God put a huge roadblock, because I found out, we had just gotten married, we bought a house, and then I found out I was expecting. And I'm like, oh man, come on, like seriously. The benefits, you got all this stuff. I said, I need to wait. Let me just wait. I can wait until I have the baby, and then maybe I won't come back after maternity. Right? Yeah. So I go, literally, maternity leave is coming to an end, and I'm working out how I'm going to not come back. And I was so serious about it because I was just dreading coming back. I'm like, I'm not going back. I'm going to do this other stuff that I've been preparing for. But God knows how to keep you where he wants you. Because let me tell you, just as my maternity leave comes to an end, my husband gets laid off. And he's laid off, and literally he's applying for jobs. He's an accountant, and he could not find work anywhere. So I was forced to go back to work. Now, what I have to say is, in the wisdom of God and the timing, because he really is a God of purpose, but he's also a God of timing. He's a God of fulfillment, but timing is big with him. And what I learned through that process and him bringing me back, he had paired me with an amazing leader at Coca-Cola. Mark, who's the CFO of Coca-Cola North America. We're really good friends till now, and he actually serves on our board as an advisory board member. And he's a mentor for me. He had paired me up with him, but what I didn't realize God was doing in the process was Mark was promoted from group director to vice president to senior vice president to CFO, and then James Quincy pulled him into the global side, and everywhere he went, he took me along with him. I was the years I was despising, and the years that were so brutal to me, that felt like they were useless, because I'm like, how could this work possibly be tied to my purpose? I don't get it. It turned out to be my life's work. It turned out to be what I needed. I wouldn't be successful if I had left sooner. So him serving on boards and me learning how boards operate, him having 16 vice presidents that reported to him, and me being his right hand person, planning those meetings, knowing how to do, calendar, manage the time and busy schedules, and putting together a leadership team. All of the things I was going to need were actually tied into that work. So I'm glad I stayed. And when it was time to leave, how did I know it was time to leave? I had God's blessing. I really did. There was no fight about it. I wasn't getting the resistance. It was such a free, open, hey, you have my blessing. And you know what? They were renovating. They brought a bunch of furniture to my house. Everybody who I worked with on that senior executive floor said, here's my number, here's my card, whatever I can do to help you. That's how I knew I was leaving at the right time. And God gave that release. It was such a good, freeing release. It wasn't me fighting against, the will and the timing of God. So when I came into this work, I had started it on the side, but it became clear that it wasn't going to be possible to do both and do them both well.
Right.
So at that point, it was time to lay one down. And that's when I knew, okay, I had God's blessing and the green light, and everything just kind of fell right into place. And it felt good to know that I waited it out. I waited it out.
Awesome. I love that. And again, I love for our viewers to hear that. That's the thing, because a lot of people, deal with not knowing when is the right timing to leave or what to do. I know, this job that I'm working, even though it's a blessing, it's sustaining me, but it's also not giving me the opportunity to be able to do what God has called me to do on this side, right? So you feel a little like, that back and forth. But I love what you said, and I want to point this out, is that, again, a lot of times, and I went through the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, like doors aren't opening. I'm trying to get into this place or whatever. But also God was teaching me certain things, and I was connecting with certain people in the process, again, prior to walking away. And so I'm just thankful for those connections that I still have this day, and that kind of thing or whatever, that really rolled into a lot of the things that I have been doing and that I will be doing, in the future. So, I'm definitely, there. Deborah said that means you had a listening ear, knowing God's voice. Absolutely. And that's
thank you. That's important. And I really do. I know there's a verse in the Bible that says, woe to him who does not inquire of the Lord. He will be disappointed. And I'm careful to ask. And even when you're wrestling, it's just good to ask and continue to wait on him, because you will not be disappointed. I know David, it looked like the mundane. It looked like, hey, you said I was going to be king. What happened? All those years, they look like wasted years, but they're not wasted years.
They're not.
Preparation time is never wasted time.
Yes. And Cindy said timing is everything. Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
She knows.
One of the things I wanted to ask too is that, so now, we heard a story about leaving Coke. So I always like viewers to understand too, what are some of the roadblocks that you face? So yes, you made the transition. Everything is kind of people, you got the green light, but even when you have the green light from God and stuff, there's still stuff that you have to face, because again, it's always a lesson in the obstacles and the challenges that you may face. And, did you really believe that this could be a viable organization to meet both your personal mission and to sustain your family at the same time? And I ask that question because a lot of times people believe that if it's not a business, If you're trying to do a mission for a nonprofit organization, it's not sustainable, and that's so far from the truth. From what I've been learning over time as well. People think, oh, it's nonprofit, so you can't make any money or sustain your family. So it's like, no, it's just there are certain elements. Or whatever. So talk to us about that. Some of the things you face at the beginning, and is it sustainable?
Yes. Okay. So those are two questions. So I'll start with the first one.
Mhm.
Some of the obstacles that you face at the beginning. Now, to be very honest with you, transitioning from going from a for-profit company, a paycheck that's coming in every 2 weeks, yeah, to a nonprofit that you have founded and you're doing everything. I mean, you're coming from VIP support, you have the media, the legal teams, every team that's handling everything for you, right? And then you come to this and you are everything. You are the website developer, you are everything. So
Yeah.
so one of the things that I have to say that I found a bit challenging was adjusting to saying, okay, this is my life's work, and I know that I'm going to have to make some incredible sacrifices to get it done, right?
That's
And you're spreading your time. You're a mom, you're a wife, you have kids in school, homework and dishes and laundry, but you still have to, so you're putting a board together, you're putting a leadership team together. You have no funding just yet because, again, no one's going to fund your work until they actually see what are you really doing and where is it really going, and do you even believe in this? Because a lot of nonprofits, they go right out of business. Like within those first 3 years, they're out of business. So a lot of places, even when you're applying for the grants, they'll tell you, hey, you have to have been doing this for at least 3 years for us to even consider your application. So obviously, we had to have a really hard conversation, my husband and I. Can we really do this financially? We're getting rid of one viable salary, like in benefits and all of this stuff. We're getting rid of, like, can we really do this? And at the end of the day, we had to weigh that and say, okay, this means we're going to make some incredible sacrifices because the money's not going to start coming in just yet. You're going to put in some hard work for a while before you actually see any returns on this. And you know what? We agreed, and I loved this. I'm so grateful to God for my husband because he has been, I mean, every step of the way in sync, together, on point, never ever, maybe this is not a good decision, maybe you should have not left. Like, he's just always been on board. We're 100% in together. So we knew, okay, we're donating our beautiful dining room set. There was a wedding present from his parents, and we're going to create a classroom right here in our house. And you know what? This will be our tithe. We will be the first investors into this before we ask anyone else to give into it. So the first year, we didn't even charge $1 for anything. We fed the kids, we bought the desks, we bought the computer, everything. We did it. It was tough because, of course, again, like I said, you realize, oh my gosh, every road leads to you. Everything leads to you, right? The buck stops here. And so where I could say to my boss, hey, what do you think? It's like, no, what do you think? That's where it's ending. So it was tough to find the right people. It was tough to stay up late so many nights, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Like, sometimes I still do that, right? But we agreed that it was worth it. And this is why I like what you said earlier about the why. When it gets tough, it's the why that keeps you in it, right? So when I look at that bank account and I I see all these job openings, I know I could really be doing that. I could make this money, and I could fund this myself, right? And then I find it, I'm like, no. I remember what those years felt like. I remember that. And when I look at these kids and I see their faces when they come through JosiahKids, and I look at my own kids and I say, God, when my life is over, I want to look back as I just take that final glance into the world and say, you know what? it was worth it. They're gonna be okay. We left them something good. We left them something of substance. And so that is what keeps me going. It was tough, and it sometimes still is, right? Because you make your mistakes and you think you found the right person for this, then you find out, oh man, this person doesn't have follow through. This person doesn't have the right values. This person doesn't, you know, show up. They say, hey, I want to do this. You get them in the job and they don't deliver. They don't do what they say they're going to do, or they miss so many sessions and it's like no apology at all. And you go, wow, I forgot that this actually exists. Like you can't really count on everybody, right? So those are tough obstacles to get through, but it has been worth it. It really has been. And I want to make sure I did not lose the second part of your question.
I think you pretty much answered it actually with it about it being viable and sustainable.
Is it viable? And what I had to learn, thank you for bringing that back to my memory. Is it viable? Yes, it is. Nonprofit, what I learned, is just a way. It's a 501c3 code that the IRS uses to be able to allow your organization to receive donations and to keep track and make sure that that money is being handled the right way, right? But it doesn't limit you. So if I can give an example, I don't know if you guys know, many of you may know Charity Water in New York. I mean, they have done an amazing work. They are like the role model nonprofit that I want to be like. I want JosiahKids to be like Charity Water. They've done an amazing job. So last year, so all of our records is a 501c3. They're usually online. You can Google this stuff up. So salaries are they're open. Everything is, you can look up a 990 and see. If the organization made more than $50,000, then they are required to itemize everything, and that lists the salaries of all the executives, the CEO, what did they make. So if you pull up like Emory University, for example, they are a nonprofit, and if you see the billions of dollars they're bringing in, and if you see the salaries of the leaders there, you would be amazed. You'd be like, what? So Charity Water, for example, I was looking this up last night. Scott Harrison, who is the CEO and founder of Charity Water, he makes about close to $400,000 a year, right? That's his salary. The person right beneath him makes about, close to $300,000. And then, he has about 11 people who make more than $200,000 a year, right? So it can be done. But when you're bringing in $88 million a year, you can pull that off, right? Yeah. So it is viable. You just have to have the integrity and the commitment to continue to do the work. And you have to believe in your mission enough to keep doing it until other people start seeing, because most people will support it when they see it. There are a few people who will support you just because of who you are. And we are blessed to have that. Yes. People who give monthly. We have people who give, once a year, and they're very generous. And then we have companies that match that. Then we've been fortunate to have, the Walmart Foundation supporting us, the Allstate Foundation supporting us. And we just received a word, the UPS wants to support us. So that didn't start on day one, right? So you have to be consistent, have the integrity, and be trusted, because that's really what a nonprofit needs, is trust. When the community feel they can trust you, they're willing to give. And when they give, you're able to make a living, right? You may be able to make a living. But for us, what we did, we said, we're not going to join these salaries. We know we could, but we're not going to do that. For the first 3 years, we just gave fully. Zero, not even a penny paying ourselves. But we know that God is amazing. So we're not worried about that. We know that He has sustained us. We have food on our table, and we have what we need. And it's going to be okay, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is viable, and it is absolutely possible to support your family through a nonprofit.
I love it. And Dunn also made a comment that said that she just said it was awesome that you had a great support system, and that is so important. The fact that, I think it was shortly put it out there after, you talked about Newton, your husband, and everything. So, but that is so important to have a good support system around you, and who are like-minded and willing to really push the mission, help you push the mission forward.
Yeah.
So just 2 more questions before we get into the content. So one of the other things I wanted to know is that, can you pinpoint maybe one of the biggest mistakes you made when starting out, or even in the process, and how did you overcome something that was kind of really big, that was a kind of an aha for you as far as a mistake that you might have made?
Okay. So I could give you a few, but I'll give you one.
We all have a few, trust me.
Exactly. So the first person that we hired, because I really was, I never had the intention to make JosiahKids big. I always wanted it to just remain in a dining room with those 11 kids. And I just said, we will video record it and share it with the world. If the world wants to watch it, we'll share the videos. But we're not going to leave the dining room. We'll just keep it to these 11. And when they go to college, we take some more kids in. And that's it. But by the end of the year, the 11 desks had turned to 18 desks, 20-something desks. There were desks everywhere in the house, right? And it was clear we had to move out, right? We had to move it out of here. And then when we started to see, we're going to 30 and then 40-something kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess I may have to leave Coke, because I was going to balance that and it was just going to work out well. But one of the things I did when we started here in the house, we hired someone to do the videography for us. And so every time we were in session, they would tape the session and they were to edit the session, place it online so kids from anywhere in the world can have access to it.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, by the time we were done with that whole school year, we only had one video. The work was never edited. The work was never put online. And we even paid for the equipment at the beginning of this. And it was just a chasing after. But you're spread so thin and you're doing so much, the person was young. And I wanted to give them an opportunity, because again, when you're a founder and you know what it's like to do things from the grassroots level, you always want to support other founders. You always want to support other young entrepreneurs and businesses. So I gave the opportunity to this young man, and unfortunately they didn't deliver. And we taught a lot of good stuff in that first year. We still don't have that stuff till today. We've tried to get the stuff, so eventually I ended up having to say, hey, we're going into year 2 and we're really sorry, but we can't bring you along with us, right? So we didn't have a contract in place. We didn't write a contract. We just, trusted, we were just like, hey, you got good skills. We love what you're doing. And we want to help you too. So yeah, that didn't work out. So I learned earlier that no matter how trusted, how nice the person is, you need to have those things in place. You gotta, work out those expectations, put them in writing, do the contracts. And my sister, who is an attorney, thank goodness, has been very helpful to look over legal documents for us, help us make sure that we're doing things absolutely 100% the right way, and making sure that we are protecting the organization as well as the people who we're working with. So some of those mistakes that we were making were you're just trusting people. You're taking their word for it, right? And you end up paying, which we should have never done, paying for stuff in advance without first getting the work. And you're saying, okay, you know what? I'll just pay, because I don't want to owe you anything. I just want to pay it up and be done.
Right.
So that's just one. That's just one small.
Gotcha. Well, it's not small, because you paid the price of your first year not being, really taped and say, yes, this is what we did in our first year. I'm really excited about, and even be able to see the growth, right? Because a lot of times where you start, because even I talk about myself, I'm coming up on a year that I've been doing all of my 3 talks that I've been doing, and I see the growth. And other people who's watched me was like, oh yeah, you look kind of nervous and scared, because I'm not like to be in front of the camera or live or anything. So it has definitely been a big difference and a big growth.
You see the growth and you can appreciate it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The last question before we get into kind of just you telling us a little bit about the program before we close out is that I just really wanted to understand, because I think a lot of people also don't believe once you've been in business for a certain amount of years, whether it's for profit or nonprofit, that there are some fears that may creep up, right? What is one of the things that that is fearful or may keep you up at night, about you being into the organization now? What scares you the most right now?
Okay, so this one, it is true, Bernice, and I'm so glad you're bringing that up because it's realistic, it's truthful, it's transparent, it's honest. They are fears, they come, and then you get through them and you get new ones, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I was stressing about that, and look at this big problem now, right? So one of the things I would say that does keep me up at night and that does scare me from time to time is, you know this, and some of the viewers may not know this, but Josiah Kids hosts an annual Youth Leadership Awards ceremony every year. Every November, we host our award ceremony to honor the outstanding achievements of young people from all around the world. And we have these 8 categories. So it's innovation, servant leadership, athletics, the performing arts. And so we put out all this information, and we always, I mean, it is truly a faith venture, like not to even exaggerate. It really is, because we start right now, we're taking nominations, right? So we say, hey, send us nominations of kids who are doing amazing things, because again, we believe we shouldn't wait until kids are doing bad things to point things out. We need to point out when they're doing amazing things and inspire them to keep doing great things, to set good goals and achieve them and go after their dreams, and they can do this. So we've done this twice now, and we have the third one coming up. So the first time we did this, I was, oh my goodness, I was like, can we really do this? Because you're inviting a community of people. We had 300 seats available. We invited Robert Long, who's the global chief. He was at the time the global chief innovation officer from the CocaCola company. He was a keynote speaker. You have food, catering, all this stuff, and you're going, oh my goodness, okay, is this really gonna work out, right? But it happened, and it was actually a great success. No, standing room only. And then we did it again last year. Now the problem with last year and the fear was, oh my goodness, there's COVID. So we were faced with this decision. Everybody, the board members, leadership team, should we cancel? Should we do this? Are we gonna do this? And eventually, again, praying and knowing that the decision kind of rests with you. I was like, okay, I feel like God is saying we should do it, but do it virtual. But doing it virtual opened up a door for us to go global. We were able to accept, because year 1, we were only taking nominations from Georgia only. Right. Year 2, we were able to accept nominations from all over the world. That's the crisis and the fear of, oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work? What if it doesn't go well? Our guest speaker, Adam May, came from Google, and he spoke. That was awesome. But we had 262 people join from all around the world, 69 different cities, 19 different states. We honored kids from all over the place. But it is a big event. It's a very big event. And it is really scary, because when you think about it, you're like, it takes money to do, right? So things are opening back up. This is 2021, and we're wondering, okay, should we do a virtual again, or should we do a hybrid this time? Should we do it in person? And so we're working on that right now as we speak, right? Gotcha. So we have a committee that's focused on the Beaufort Harvest, which is our annual leadership event. So when you start tapping into the speakers, you start looking at the budget for the Beaufort Harvest. When you start looking at the, what if you invite all these people and no one comes? What if you do all this and you don't have the money to pay for the food? So those are some of the fears. They are real, but every time I have just learned, I keep hearing Chuck Swindoll say, God does not want you to step back from big challenges. He wants you to step up to them. And I also hear something that Mark Batterson said in his book, The Circle Maker. He said, God loves big prayers, because bold prayers honor him. God honors bold prayers because bold prayers honor him. So I
Absolutely.
look at the bigness of the harvest. I look at how big the event is. I look at who we're inviting. I look at all of the costs. And then I just say, okay, God, you know what? You know that we can't do this on our own. Like without you, we can't really do this. So that is one of the fears that, you face every year, but you say, you were there in 2019, you were there in 2020. It was a great success. And I have to keep confessing that it's going to be a great success. The 2021 Beef Harvest is going to be a great success. So that's what you'll hear me say.
Well, I know Deborah had a question, but you actually ended up answering. She asked, how did you handle things when COVID hit? But she came back and said you answered a question in the interim. Desiree, she said, awesome with all of the amazing things as far as the awards and everything. And then Dunn said, people never realize the power and potential they have until they try. She said, awesome testimony for sure.
Thank you so much.
There, absolutely.
Love that so much.
And so the last thing, I want you to just close out, Marlene, if you would, over the next 10 minutes, just to kind of share with us the programs with Josiahs, how people can enroll, because there are people that work with the youth, Deborah, Don, actually, and then some people on here, they have youth, such as myself.
Nice.
So I would love for you to share with us as we close out just about the programs that you're doing this year. We know we had to do everything virtually last year. So how different will it be? And what are some of the new programs that you added this year? And we'll just close out from there.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. So basically 2021 September. Okay, so we've just wrapped up our school year. I'm so grateful we did well. Now we're looking at September when we go back, and we're going back in person. Praise God. And two things I'm really excited about. For year 4, what we felt that we wanted to do. What we've done in the past, we've invited guest speakers. Every single time it's been a different speaker. Sometimes we're hosting panel events like with law enforcement or grief recovery, or those kind of panel discussions that are helpful. We still have our community service events, but for year 4, what we've changed, we've divided our students into 2 schools. So the lower school, which is our ages 7 through 9, and the upper school, ages 10 through 17. So our lower school students are getting Bible and fitness. So we've partnered with an organization called Amazing Athletes of Greater Atlanta. They will be coming on site. And that first hour when we meet at 9 a.m., our younger students are going to have Bible, and we're going to do the joint Bible. So we do have a curriculum, the Bible Made Easy for Kids. I really, really have a passion to help kids understand the word. And though I love personal growth and development, loving to teach goal setting and managing time and finances, and we do all of that, but I really have a passion for the word because I believe it's at the heart of everything we do. Discipleship and helping them to know who God is, helping them to know him well. So they will be learning the Bible. And then they break off, the younger crew will break off with Greater Atlanta, Amazing Athletes of Greater Atlanta, and they will do fitness and nutrition stuff. They're going to talk about that. Now, our upper school students, this is a really exciting opportunity because we've teamed up, we've partnered with youth entrepreneurs. They're now called Empowered. And we're going to be teaching entrepreneurship classes to our 10-year-olds all the way to 17. And they're going to do a lot of, this curriculum is actually, what I'm excited about it is because it teaches entrepreneurship from a very practical standpoint, right? So they're learning currency and they're doing a lot of activities and hands-on stuff. And it's going to end, the school year will end with a capstone where they get to actually apply what they've been learning. They will sell, probably more than likely invite the community. We'll have tents outside. We have a whole big plan for how we're going to end the school year. But youth entrepreneurs, that's the curriculum we're going to teach. Now, what I love too about that is our instructors are going to be from Bain and Company, downtown Atlanta. We have some amazing, 2 very amazing professionals who will be with us for the entire school year, teaching the youth entrepreneurship curriculum. Very, very excited about that. And then, of course, they're going to get Bible. So that is our focus. We do have soccer, but we're putting that on hold until the CDC gives us the clearance that we need. But we see that a lot of students who've enrolled are showing interest in the soccer. So we will keep everyone abreast. But anyway, if there's interest in enrolling your child, if they are anywhere between the ages of 7 and 17, go to our website. It's JosiahKids.com. And everything is electronic. So you can enroll them. There is a tab that says enroll, submit an application, and we will be happy to get back to you on that. The cost, like we said, is very minimal because we want the cost not to be a barrier. We want every child to have the opportunity to do this. So it's really only $300 a year for them to. And now I know if you're signing up for soccer or dance or whatever, you pay that in a week or a month, right?
Yeah.
$100 for the year. We only meet twice a month. It's the first Saturday and the third Saturday of the month, and we're in session from 9 a.m. We're done by 12 noon. We meet in Duluth. We've been very, very fortunate to have Influencers Church take us under their wing. So they've been hosting our program for the last 2 years for free. And that is one of the ways God has helped us to mitigate the cost. So that's Josiah Kids for you. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to share more about that, Coach BJ. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're more than welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And so Deborah said, I'm excited and I'm not even a kid.
Deborah, I want to meet you.
So in addition to the programs of enrolling your youth ages 7 through 17, or is it 19 now, or is it still through 17?
Well, we say 17, but we also say that up until they leave for college. So we want to journey with them up until they leave for college, right?
Okay.
So if they're 18, they can still enroll. And we will journey with them until they're ready to let go. But our vision is to have them return and give back. So if you look at the vision at Josiah Kids, we want to raise service-minded leaders.
Absolutely.
Gifts, take your skills, tie them back to serving back, giving back, and making a difference. So we don't just want our kids to grow up to make a meaningful life for themselves. We want them to make a meaningful difference as well. So that is our emphasis.
Absolutely. So I know some people on here also are taught to youth programs. So even at your own church or your organization that serves the youth, definitely let them know about Josiah Kids. It's a wonderful program, as you've heard today. And again, volunteer opportunities for those who are led to work with the youth. There are volunteer opportunities there as well that you can reach out to her and her husband to talk about. I don't know if there is any board positions or positions available to help run the organization that might be open and available. So if you are drawn to working with the youth or drawn to this mission, definitely connect with Marlene. Your organization to see how you can help and give back and give back and pour into these young kids that are out here that are our future. You know, we say it all the time, but we want to be able to use what God has given us to pour back into the youth and serve and help them so they can, again, as they get older, as Marlene said, come back and serve and use the gifts that they give to help the other youth that are coming up behind them as well. So with that being said, I don't see any other questions or comments in the chat box. Marlene, I thank you so much for taking out the time in your busy day to come on here and to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and more about your program with us. And prayerfully, those who are watching the replay, again, will be able to get something out of this and also share as well, again, with any of those youth programs and that you guys are aware of in your specific church or other organizations that serve the youth. So again, thank you guys always for watching. I love you guys. Have a blessed rest of the day, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you, Coach BJ. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure.